I'm an incel. Tell me specific things. Give me 5 specific things that you can do, that I can do to stop being an incel. Like, what would you have any more specifics you could offer him?
So there are like, yeah, so I can make this list, but every single thing is going to have like 15 sub things. So I guess we'll just start on like a couple things. So like, here's one thing I would say is do not ever.
Right.
Sure,
So
I'm gonna push on this harder now because I feel strongly about this. Okay. And maybe I'm having a communication issue here. Okay. Empathy or consideration, all that means is you have a good understanding of what's going on in the person's mind, right? So if I know that I'm having a fun time with a girl and we're coming to the end of the night, right? And I might ask questions like, well,
yeah, man, a few things I wanted to discuss with you. Actually, first, I want to start off with an observation.
Uh-oh.
So, I was watching, it's not bad, dude. Why do you suspect it's going to be bad?
I'm sorry.
I was watching your debate with that Andrew Tate dude. I don't know. Is he like a fanboy or like what's his qualification?
Oh, even
like,
worse. He's Islamic. I'm sorry. The whole Muslim community has a massive hard on for Tate ever since he converted. So if you're a Muslim and you can like speak, like you're literally, I think like fucking Allah sent down like a second prophet named like Worship Tate or some shit, and he's like commanded like all Muslims like 5 times a day they pray to Mecca and then they get on their Twitter account and they try to fucking shill for Andrew Tate. It's unbelievable, but yeah, unironically like that whole community has like come out hard for him.
They pray to Mecca, but they jerk off to Andrew Tate.
Yeah,
dude, I could not believe it when that dude played the race card. I was flabbergasted that's the argument, that's the hill he was going to die on. This whole thing with Andrew Tate as a result of racism and Islamophobia.
In the United States, you have much more black people, Hispanic people, 300% more, who have been incarcerated. So again, this is an example of another black man who's basically been incarcerated in... Sorry, you left. Do you not agree?
I don't know. I don't think this has anything to do with black men or whatever that's being incarcerated. I don't know why that's even... I don't know why that even got brought up.
It does.
Yeah, it was just silly, yeah. But I didn't know, but apparently that guy, people linked me his profile after. I don't want to misquote this. I should look him up. Apparently that guy's like a professor of theology for Islam as well or something. Can somebody find that exactly so I don't...
Yeah, he's a theological expert. I saw that on your subreddit.
Yeah. Somebody linked that. I don't want to misquote that, but like, yeah, he's got like some theological background in Islam as well. So, yeah. It's not surprising that that's like the... Yeah.
Here's the sad realization I'm starting to come to. It's a very sad realization, is that people on my side, I wouldn't say I'm on the right, but like I'm heavily into the manosphere, the red pill, blah, blah, are just as much of a snowflakes as people on the left.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just snowflakes, you know? That's how it is. Some people don't like when you make fun of abortion. Some people don't like when you make fun of Factorio. What are you going to do? but
no, dude, I could never imagine like trying to make like the race up. Like if I ever get into a scandal, did you know it's because I'm Russian?
No.
It's because I immigrated to this country at the age of 7 from Russia, and everyone's hating on me. No, so there's a few things. I was watching your debate with Vikram, or discussion, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I figured we'd start off by just asking you a few questions. We see where you stand on this. So what do you think men who are incels need to do to improve their results with women? I've heard you say that becoming emotionally available. What else do you think there is to it besides becoming emotionally available?
The broad focus that I have right now is, so very broadly is what I would say is, I think the question you have to ask yourself is like, what am I offering to a woman? Like, why would she want to be in a relationship? What is she going to get from me that she doesn't get from just her friends or whatever? So I think that's one part of it. That's like a good starting point. In terms of like, what do people need to do? I don't know. This is like a hard one that I'm probably going to spend more time thinking on in the future, but like you have to develop this this ability to converse with and have fun with and be like compatible with women. And that's a skill that I think for some people, just by virtue of your social groups and everything, you develop it like really, really early in life. I'm not like a dating coach or a charisma on command guy or whatever. I don't know how you teach people that in their like teens or 20s. But I know that if you haven't learned it by the time you're like out of school, if you're in a male heavy dominated field or whatever, it's going to be really, really, really hard because practicing gets really, really hard. So yeah, I don't have like a walkthrough for that, but.
I mean, like, I don't want to keep pushing if you don't have like a solid answer on this, but like, is there anything like you could think of? Like, okay, like Vikram, let's say Vikram is an incel. He comes to Destiny. I fucking beat off to your Factorio videos. I'm your biggest fan, but I'm an incel. Tell me specific things. Give me 5 specific things that you can do, that I can do to stop being an incel. Like, would you have any more specifics you could offer him?
So there are like, yeah, so I can make this list, but every single thing is going to have like 15 sub things. So I guess we'll just start on like a couple things. So like, here's one thing I would say is do not ever come off as desperate or clingy. Have your own life, have your own shit going on. If you ever give off a desperate or clingy vibe to somebody, they're gone forever. That would be like one piece of advice. But then obviously you can say, like, well, what do you mean by desperate? Like, you can go like 15 layers deep into that. Do you want me to go any deeper than that, or is that like an okay, like level?
No, I think that's pretty straightforward, and I agree with you on that. Don't be desperate, don't be needy. Okay, keep going.
One is don't be desperate, clingy. Two, some of these are just going to be basic social skills as well. Number two is have a genuine interest in the other person. From a genuine interest will spring a whole bunch of other things. So if a person tells you something in a conversation, don't just run down 20 lists of questions. Like, play on that thing. If somebody tells you they're like, oh, you know, I'm a teacher in like a disadvantaged school or some shit, like, well, why? Like, is there a reason for that? Like, follow up conversations by showing genuine interest to people. It super helps your conversational skills. Being able to ask good questions to get the other person talking about themselves. That's one thing. Another thing, this actually should have been number one. This is the hardest one, obviously, though. Have confidence. That's like the most important fucking life skill you can have. But in terms of like developing that or fostering that or what that looks like in a conversation, it's probably going to play into a lot of these other things. Don't come off as desperate, having a genuine interest in another person. Like, all these things are kind of vibing off confidence. A fourth thing is going to be consideration for another person's time, consideration for another person's like space. When you're hanging out with somebody, be aware of like what they're comfortable with. Be aware of how comfortable they are with you touching them or being in their bubble. Be considerate of other people's time. Don't be fucking late to first dates. Don't ever fucking do that. Don't be late to a first date. When you're talking to somebody on a first date, don't ever fucking look at your phone ever, not even a single fucking time, unless your mom is dying and you've got a special ringtone for it. That would be a piece of advice. Yeah, these are all like really general, disparate pieces of advice, but I think these are probably some of those. I haven't thought about like what were like the top like 3, 4, 5 things I'd say, but like these would be like a starting point, I guess. Yeah. Fifth one is going to be unironically, is going to be like rooming and grooming. If you're going to bring a girl back to your house, buy a fucking plant or something. Don't make it look like your like dorm is like Ted Bundy's fucking jail cell. Like, have some kind of like thing going on. And then the general thing of like, make sure that you don't have fucking patchy facial hair, get a decent haircut, make sure that you don't even have to have good fashion, just have clothes that fit, and make sure that you're presenting yourself about as well as you can be, you know, without you having to go to the gym and getting shredded or anything like that. Those probably be like my starting point somewhere there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I wrote down everything you said. The only one I want to explore further is to be confident. So Vikram asked you, but Destiny, how do I become confident? So what would you tell him?
Yeah, go back in time and be 6 years old and work on it.
No, but like, seriously.
Yeah, I'll say this is what it means to me. I don't know how you foster this in other people. I'm not a very socially reflective person. For me, there is a person that I want to be, and there are things that I want to do in life. And in order to do those things, I have to be the type of person that can do those things. So my life is me on a journey to make myself the type of person that can do the things that I want to do. And as long as I'm on that path and I'm committed to it and I feel like I'm making decent progress about it, I have an immense amount of love and respect for myself. Regardless of what anybody else fucking says about me in a forum, in real life, or whatever, if a girl shoots me down, that's fine. Having that space that I've carved out in the universe that I can occupy, that another person can't take from me, gives me the ability to navigate the world, conversations, professional relationships in a way where I have a presence that other people can feel. I don't know how you tell somebody how to develop that, because sometimes people are very reflective of others around them. If people are giving them shit, they kind of break down. Other times they need a lot of reinforcement from a partner or a family, and if they don't have those two things, they break down. Yeah, I don't know how to foster that at all. I truly have no idea. I'm not sure. I can tell people what to do, but I don't know how to I could say don't judge yourself based on what people around you think. That's an easy thing to say, but like, I don't know if people can just do that, you know?
Here would be my answer. Confidence generally comes from competence, right? So if you're really good at something, you're probably going to be confident at it, which is why, like, someone like me who's like very confident, when I gave my first public speech, I was not that confident, right? Because I've never done it before. Now that I've given 5 or 6 public speeches, I'm a lot more confident, right? Because I have the competence at positive reference experiences. So for someone who's an incel, I think the biggest thing that needs to be done is they need to break the losing cycle. So every single incel has tried over and over and over and over and over again. They have failed. And losing actually affects your brain chemistry, and so does winning. There's a very interesting book about it. It's called The Winner Effect. But that actually, like, losing over and over again will affect your brain chemistry, and same thing with winning, right? Which is why you want to break the losing cycle, and you want to start getting some positive reference experiences. So whenever I coach a guy who's an incel, a virgin, I want to make the challenge level as low as possible, right? Because these guys are already second guessing themselves. They're not that confident, have the best social skills. So I think the mistake that a lot of them make, get into is they're like, they have the skills to play level 1. They're trying to play level 6. They're trying to go to a club and pick up a girl, right? That's too challenging for them. Like they're not ready for that yet. So what I would do is try to get them really, really solid photos on Tinder, right? Have them a sexual bio. So then they set up a date straight to the house where literally all they have to do is open the door, not have a heart attack, and basically make out with the girl, and then it's over, right? That's how easy I want to make it for the guy. Then they lose their virginity, right? Then we can start upping the challenge level. So then we can start doing public dates, right? Still from Tinder. Once he has a few success with that, maybe try approaching girls in real life. Maybe try going to a bar. But we slowly up the challenge level, right? We have to change their brain chemistry from losing to winning, right? So we have to develop a pattern of them getting positive reference experience. So we can't do that. Everything else is going to make no difference.
I don't know if that works, but if you've had success with it, then that would be your model. So here would be 2 questions that I would have for you, or 2 challenges that I'm interested in. So here's a problem that I have. I know a surprising amount of people in this industry who are incredibly competent, but they have horrible imposter syndrome. It's way more common than I ever thought, and that might be a selection bias on my end. I don't know how I would account for those people using your model. I know a lot of people that are smart. Fucking Lily Peach was a really great example. Amazing artist, really good at voice acting, amazing at music, tons of creative, awesome ideas, fun person to be around, and she has horrible imposter syndrome issues. And I know so many people like that like doubt themselves, and I meet them, and I almost think they're joking when they tell me, and they aren't joking. So that's like one challenge. And on the other end, and then I'll let you tell me how you do this. On the other end, I've met people that are very confident, incredibly confident, but these motherfuckers don't have fuck all for competency. They're arrogant. They don't deserve the amount of confidence they have. They can be fuckboys. They haven't really done much on their own. They come from rich fucking families. They haven't do. But these guys like exude confidence. Like, what the fuck? Why? You don't deserve to be this confident. So that's the issue I guess I have in my mind, that competency leads to confident, because I know highly competent people that have no confidence, and I know very confident people that aren't confident. So I'm curious how you address that, or how you deal with that.
Yeah, sure. So let's start off with the first one, the imposter syndrome. So typically imposter syndrome happens when you're basically, your life circumstances change too fast. So when you go from you're like a struggling musician, you make one song, you're like the most famous person ever, right? It happened really, really fast, right? Your internals haven't caught up to the externals, right? Deep down inside, your perception of yourself, your self-image hasn't changed to accommodate your circumstances. So really the way around that is to just be slow and progressive, right? So, and again, with like this stuff, unless you have like a song that hits it big or something like that, if you're just like learning success with women, you're not really going to go from like nothing to like a lot in a very short time span, unless I don't know, something crazy happens. So I don't think that's something you really have to worry about when it comes to, game with women. I think that typically happens more with careers where people just like take off too big. Like you see those with lottery winners, right? Which is why the statistics on lottery winners are just abysmal, because these people go from being broke to being, having $100 million in one day. And deep down inside, they still think they're broke, right? And that takes again, that's why they get imposter syndrome. But do you know anyone in like the pickup community who has imposter syndrome, or like anyone in my side of the internet, or is this more just like musicians?
It's like everybody that works in content creation. It's some people that work like professionally. I've like met a lot of like pretty talented people that work as like devs and stuff who think that they're like not good at all. And then I've met a lot of people that talk themselves up a lot that are fucking dog shit. I don't know. It's just, it's interesting to me. Where the imposter syndrome and the overconfidence syndrome. But what you're saying essentially is that like small victories over time will very slowly remodel the inside of your brain to give you more confidence to tackle new challenges, because once you see you can accomplish some things at a smaller level, you can start building it up to basically bigger levels, essentially.
Yeah, you change your self-image of yourself. So everyone has a self-image that they carry around, right? And whenever there's a massive incongruence between like our external results and our self-image, that creates like stress, that creates anxiety, right? So if your self-image is that like you're like a loser who's not good with girls, and you have a hot girl who's into you, you're probably going to self-sabotage, right? Because it's like, whoa, right? And you're not even going to do it consciously. It's going to be subconsciously, right? But again, and there's different ways to change your self-image. There's an interesting book that talks about a different way to do it through like meditation or whatever. I've never tried it that way, so I don't really speak on that. The way I've done it is through a series of small victories over time, and then basically eventually your subconscious realizes, hey, I'm no longer this loser. I haven't been this loser for years. I'm actually, somewhat good with women, right? So, and then your self-image starts to mold and change.
Okay, yeah, maybe. Yeah,
So the
I don't know
second,
if I've met a lot of people who've done that, but it's possible. Yeah, I don't have the experience like building people like that. So yeah, you could be totally right. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would use myself as like, obviously, like using yourself as an example isn't the best, but I would use myself when I was 18, 19. I literally thought I was the biggest loser when it comes to girls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was just like, why would any girl ever be attracted to me? I'm such a loser, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, I don't think that anymore, right? And just that was like massive amounts of, like just repeated actions over and over again. I mean, there's other things you can do. You can do like, what's the term? I forget what the term is. Basically, it's when you have a negative thoughts and you like twist it and make it positive. That's like a psycho. That's a what's the term? Cognitive behavioral therapy technique. I don't know. I've never tried that, but I think there's other ways to do it. I just can only speak on the one that I know. But the second thing, people are confident without confidence. That is true. Those people do exist. There's kind of like two types of confidence. There's your core confidence, and then there's your specific confidence when it comes to the activity, right? And there's some people who are fortunate enough to have a high level of core confidence due to the fact that they had really good upbringings. So when they were like, where their self-image was being really molded around like 7 or 8 years old, people were constantly telling them they were the man. People were saying you're awesome. They were the popular kid in school, and that gives them a false sense of superiority, right?
Mm-hmm.
And typically more has to do with ego than self-esteem. They have an ego that they're this awesome person. And the difference between ego and self-esteem is that people who have self-esteem, they don't really care what the outside world thinks about them, versus for people who have an ego, their ego is dependent on external validation. So yeah, that can happen for sure. There are those people that exist. You can have confidence without being competent, but if you start developing competence, on average, you will improve your confidence in that activity. And when you build up confidence in certain areas, in several areas, then that starts to bleed over and you start to get some core confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you can do things that you've never done before, but you still feel at least somewhat confident because you're like, hey, I've done all these other things. I've succeeded. I'm not a loser. I'm a guy who can get things done. And that allows you to be more successful in other areas of your life.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, so going back to the 5 points you made. So you said, don't be desperate. I agree with you that one. Don't be, don't be desperate. Don't be needy. Be confident. Obviously, we agree on that. Grooming and grooming, I think generally you're right about that. I think guys need to stop being sloppy. The two, I think that not necessarily I don't disagree with them. I just think they're like largely insignificant is be considerate and be genuinely interested, because I think a lot of these incels are already very considerate and they're already like trying to be genuinely interested. So I don't think it's like these like assholes who are like LARPing around as incels. It's generally like very sweet guys who are just it's like you look at the guy, he's like, he's so sweet, he's so nice, but the girl's like, I would never him. So I think for them, being considered, being genuinely interested isn't really the thing that's going to move the needle. I think for a lot of those guys, it's actually being more masculine. And I know you said that most men are decently masculine. I completely disagree with that. I think the majority of men are not decently masculine. The examples you used were like celebrities, Johnny Depp and Pirates of the Caribbean, stuff like that. But I think it's a different ball field when you're famous versus if you're just a regular dude. I think vast majority of men are not decently masculine, because what is really attractive is sexual polarity. So men are typically attracted to feminine women, and women are typically attracted to masculine men.
First of all, on the incel thing, I don't agree that there is a genuine level of consideration. There's a difference between the nice guy syndrome is something different than just being a considerate person. And I think it goes to show in terms of like what the nice guy thing is. Like if you're being nice to somebody and the goal is to get something out of them, that's not really being considerate. And I think people can kind of tell. I think this is how a lot of kind of the weird, I'm not calling all incels rapists, but that's how a lot of weird rapey stuff happens in streamer communities, where it'll be like, I bought a hotel for you, I bought airplane tickets for you, and you flew out to this convention to meet me, and you're not fucking me. Like, what the fuck? I was being so nice and considerate. And it's like, you weren't really being a considerate person at all. You were just trying to do things to like the person. I don't think that a lot of people that haven't spent a lot of time building social skills around other people are in general considerate. I actually think being considerate is one of like the rarest like personality traits. I think that people are generally pretty self-centered, pretty self-absorbed, not like in a horrible, evil, mean way, but they just generally don't have an understanding of what's going on with other people around them. Something as stupid as like a girl complaining about like, oh God, my dad is being like an asshole today, or oh, like I had an issue at school or some shit. Like the next time you see them at a dinner date, like being like, hey, what's up? How are you going? Hey, how did the thing with your dad turn out? Like saying something as stupid and as simple as that is like a huge key in a person's mind, where it's like, oh, this guy paid attention to something I said like a few days ago and has asked me about it. That's like I think that's a big thing that goes really far in some kind of conversations. For the genuine connection thing too as well, like forming a genuine connection where the person feels like they can talk to somebody that's interested in them and interesting, can give them interesting feedback on what they're saying and then follow up that conversation from a conversational point of view is pretty important. I don't know what like being more masculine means. Like if I think of like the average incel and I think of like his average inability to like get with a girl, I'm not thinking he's like not masculine enough. I'm thinking he's missing things like confidence and social skills generally. Those are now, but maybe you think that some of these things are masculine. I guess you can talk on that. We're talking on any of these things. Go for it.
Yeah, so I think being considerate is like generally tied to empathy, and I think there are some guys who will definitely benefit from being more empathetic. That was like actually one of the big things I developed in my like late 20s, early 30s, right? It's like I got good at picking up girls, but like the empathy part, I was like semi-empathetic, right? But when I learned to be more empathetic, that made my relationships a lot better. Less fights with my girlfriends, longer relationships. Like I'm going on the longest relationship I've ever been in. And like I think a big part of that is I learned to be more empathetic, right? So there's definitely a time and place for that. However, I think for the incels, generally like 95 to 99% of the time, their issue isn't a lack of empathy. I think a lot of these guys are, a lot of these incels are, at least from what I've seen, like take that I am Skippy guy. Very feminine, very awkward, just kind of like, just a girl doesn't look at him and is like, yeah, like this guy would fuck the shit out of me. The girl looks at him, she's like, yeah, this guy would like do my homework for me, right? It's just like the vibe they give off isn't like a confident, grounded, dominant man who's gonna fuck the shit out of the girl. It's just not the vibe that girls get from I am Skippy and any of these other guys.
Wait, real quick, who is the I am Skippy guy?
Oh, you've never heard of him?
No.
Oh, bro, I just opened up a whole can of content for you. He's like this 40-year-old virgin. He makes really cringy videos where he tries to like pick up girls, and it's like really bad stuff. Abin Preach roasted him because he's like literally getting like borderline like R word because he's that desperate. Yeah, I don't know, man. He's just a fucking character.
Okay, jeez.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you reviewed one video of him like a year ago or so.
Hold on, I barely could make out what you were saying. What did you say?
Remember?
Vikram was saying you reviewed one of his videos like a year ago.
Oh, okay. I might have. I just don't remember. But okay. People are saying in chat I've watched some of his videos before, but yeah.
But yeah, he's like the poster child of like an incel, right, or a virgin, right? And it's just like when you like, and I've coached a lot of these virgins and incels, and it's always the same thing. It's not like I coach these virgins or incels, and it's like, wow, this guy's like too much of an asshole. He's like too like cocky.
Yeah. Wait. Just real quick on that. Because you keep saying this thing. When I say not empathetic or not considerate, I don't think that the opposite of inconsiderate is not asshole. It's just like aloof, like just not aware. I think is the issue that I have. So like there's like an example that I give a million times. Anytime I'm with another person ever, I'm always pulling people out of the way because they're not aware that they're standing in the middle of doorways or standing in like lanes where people are moving. And I was like, hey, watch out, hey, chill or whatever. They're like just not aware of like what's going on with people around them. And I think that extends in general to conversations with people as well. That when I say people are being inconsiderate, I don't mean like, oh, you're being an asshole, you're trying to fuck her, bro. You're not like treating her like a human. I just mean you generally just like don't have an understanding of like what that person is thinking or what's going on in their mind. And you're like very self-centered, like focused on your goals, and you're just not like keeping in mind like what's going on the other end of things. I think an inconsiderate person is not somebody that's an asshole. They're just like kind of like in their own head is what I mean, I guess.
Yeah, so even if we go off that, I would make the argument that like 99% of incels would benefit from being more aloof. Like, would you agree that you can be too considerate when it comes to dating, and that will lower your odds if you're just like too empathetic, too considerate?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, I do with the way that you're phrasing it, because like, but like I'm gonna disagree that that's considerate. Like if like a girl shows up and you're like, oh my god, hold on, let me get the door for you. Oh my god, hold on, let me get this. Oh my god, right? But that's not being considerate. That's also being inconsiderate because you're not realizing you're coming off as like a weirdo when you do shit like that. I think, right?
Right. Like the way I see it play out is like a girl like might give the guy like a shit test. Are you familiar with the term shit test or the concept of shit test?
Yeah, my whole life is a shit test. Yeah.
Okay, so a girl gives a guy a shit test, and the guy's like, really? Oh my god, I'm so sorry about that. Like, the girl, like, playfully gives the guy shit. Like, for anyone who's watching who doesn't know what shit test is, so a girl's, like, playfully testing the guy, right? So the girl might be like, oh, you're gonna wear that? Oh, I thought we were going on a date. Like, she's saying playfully, right? And someone, I think in that situation, it is beneficial to be aloof, be like, ma'am, that's my outfit, take it or leave it, right? Versus like a lot of these incel guys who be like, oh my god, I'm really sorry, I can go home and change, They're trying so hard to like connect with a girl, trying so hard to be empathetic, that they're not coming off as masculine and grounded, right?
Sure,
so I think
I'm gonna push on this harder now because I feel strongly about this, okay? and maybe I'm having a communication issue here.
Okay.
Empathy or consideration, all that means is you have a good understanding of what's going on in the person's mind, right? So if I know that I'm having a fun time with a girl and we're coming to the end of the night, right? And I might ask a question, it's like, well, bar's closing. You want to go hang out at my place? What do you have to do? Whatever. And she's kind of like, I don't know, I'm feeling a little bit tired, right? And I know that she's kind of messing with me. I'm not saying that being empathetic or considerate there means like, oh my God, like go home and sleep, queen, right? If I know that she's joking, I'll probably play back. I'm like, oh, well, good thing my bed is really comfortable, right? I'll like make a joke or play back. But that's being empathetic or considerate as well. For some reason or somehow, I'm not accusing you of doing this, but like I feel like a lot of things get reframed in these horrible lights. Like being emotionally available as a man means you have to be like a blithering, blubbering, like crybaby, right? I don't think that's true. I don't think you think that's true, right? But like being being empathetic and considerate doesn't mean that you're being a fucking simp. It just means you're aware of like the other person's comfort zone and what the other person is thinking is what I mean generally.
Yeah, I think it's a spectrum, right? There's a right amount of consideration to bring to the table on a first date, and that increases once you start getting to know the girl and dating the girl. Mm-hmm. I just literally want to fact check myself, so I Googled what's the definition of considerate. It says careful not to cause inconvenience or hurt others. Yeah. Which kind of goes along with, yes, if you are too worried about causing inconvenience to the girl, or you're too worried about offending her, that is going to really fuck up with your risk. That is really going to fuck up with how successful you are when it comes to, being good with women, right? Like, you need that to walk that fine middle line where you're not a total asshole, you're not completely aloof, but you're somewhat aloof. You're not too worried about offending her. You're polarized.
I mean, like, you say like too worried about offending her. Go for it.
You don't care that much if you offend this girl, if you inconvenience her, right? Because again, you're just doing your own thing, right? There needs to be some level of that combined with some level of consideration. Again, it's a middle line you need to walk. And when you go too far to one end of that spectrum, where a lot of these incels are, where they're just like so worried about offending the girl or getting her to think that they're weird, they're really worried about her, and they're becoming too considerate, and that is going to work against them.
Yeah, we need to someday we're gonna like play some of these dates out or some shit. Like when I think of myself, I am always thinking about like offending the other person or being rude or disrespectful to the other person. It's something that I consider a lot at all points in every interaction. But like I feel like the way that we imagine these scenarios playing out is so much different. Like when people think I'm quote unquote negging a girl on stream, right? I am super brutal with a lot of my conversations. But in the course of me being brutal, I'm always thinking like, is this too far? Am I being like too much of a dick here? Like, is the girl still like being playful with me? Or have I like been actually mean? Like, these are things that I'm constantly thinking about. I never think like, okay, I'm just gonna be cool and fucking, fuck this, whatever the fuck she, and then go like as hard as I can. I think that you can be like, thinking a lot and being considerate of the other person and having these thoughts without like turning into like a pussy about it, I guess.
Well, okay, first of all, I think you may think that you're like, that you're trying to be ultra considerate, but if we look back, like I think this is what makes you an effective streamer is you're not afraid to be polarizing. Like, like given the fact, like, okay, just going back to that speed date where you were like, that chick was a bitch. Like, you weren't being considerate in that moment. You were just being yourself, right? And again, that's like, you have a lot of takes like that where you're not afraid to offend the other person. You're not afraid to call people out. You're not afraid to even give them shit. I've seen this time and time again. So I wouldn't say it's fair to say that the first and primal thing in your mind when you're doing a stream is being considerate. I think you do consider that for sure. I think you're a nice human being. But I think also you kind of have this take it or leave it type of vibe. Hey, this is who I am. Yeah, for sure.
But to be one more step there, though, the empathy or the considerateness from me comes in where I know what I'm doing when I do that. When I tell that girl, like, oh, I think that girl's a bitch, whatever, like, I know that it's over at that point, that it's done, right? I would never say something like that, and then when the girl's like, oh, like, I can't believe you said it, I'm like, whoa, hold on, I didn't mean to say it. Like, I know that I'm shutting things down. It's just being aware of, like, the impact you're having on another person. There are times when I do say things where it's like, hey, this person is over, this girl's not coming home like this, but I know that that's what's going on. I'm not just, like, clueless about it. I think that's where the empathetic part is just, like, having an understanding of the other person's mind and what the impact of what you're saying is. It doesn't always mean you're having, like, the nicest impact, but at least being aware of what's going on, right? If I lose a girl or if I lose a date or if I've got a girl and she doesn't come home with me and it fucked up, I generally know like where things are. I was like, okay, I think this part she probably didn't like this or this, she's not into that or whatever, and I know like what's like I can figure out like pretty quickly like okay, this is just not it, right? That's all I mean. Yeah. I'm pushing on this particular part really hard because I think so many people when they say empathy, and I don't know if you have the same feelings, when I say like empathy or considerate, I don't mean to just be like a pushover baby bitch. who's like, oh, queen, like, let me do everything for it. That's not at all what I mean. I just mean like being aware of what's going on in the other person's mind.
Well, there's levels of it, right? There's different levels of it, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be considerate at all on a first date. I'm saying there's levels of it, and when you go too far, when you're trying too hard to be considerate, you do basically, because again, consideration means like like you're worried about offending someone or whatever. When you're going too far in that direction, you are not being yourself anymore. You're not being polarizing, and you are less attractive as a partner. Right, so there's levels of it, but if you go too far, which I think a lot of these like if you watch the I Am Skippy dates, like I think it would be funny if one day we do like a review together. But literally, there's one date where he literally shows up to this girl's house and he's like, hey, you texted me that you wanted a Klondike bar, so I went to the store and bought you a Klondike bar. Look at me, I'm such a good guy. And the girl just has like pure disgust in her face. It's like, ugh. But this is like, yes, when you try too hard to become too considerate, then it does lead you down the path of becoming a pussy. It doesn't need to, but that's typically how it goes. It needs to be balanced out with this take it or leave it type of mentality that, I am who I am and I don't give a fuck if people like me. I'm not too worried about hurting other people's feelings. I know what I want and I'm not afraid to express it. I mean, I think I've heard you say this in the past, is that like you're like very direct with women. You're like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, kind of this is what it is, right? That's the opposite of being like ultra considerate. If you were ultra considerate, then you would be worried that you expressing that you're looking for sex would offend them, right? It's consideration to some extreme. It's long-term consideration. Maybe you can make that argument, but that's not what these like incels are doing. They're not showing up on the date like you would and being like, hey, this is what I'm looking for and blah, blah, blah. And this is like my sense of humor. They're like trying really hard to just get the girl to like them, and they're really worried about offending her, and they're really worried about making her uncomfortable, and they go way too far in the other direction. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe
I think we actually 100% agree. I think we just use the words differently, because if you're being too afraid of offending somebody, if you're being too scared to like say what you mean or whatever, then like an empathetic person should realize that like, okay, well, she's like not being attracted towards me right now because I'm being a giant fucking pussy or a big walkover, like or like when me being like upfront knowing I might offend somebody, maybe I should use a different word besides considerate or empathetic. I'm not sure. Just having an awareness of what exists in the other person's mind. Like when I'm very upfront about like, hey, this is casual. I'm only looking for. If you are, that's cool. If you're not, then that's fine. Like that to me, that like the response I'm looking for there, my like dealing with the other person is still going to be pretty empathetic. But when I say empathetic or considerate, I have an awareness of what's in the other person's mind. I know this might turn the other person off. It doesn't mean I'm always trying to be the nicest person. It doesn't mean I'm always trying to like simp or suck out the person. It just means I'm aware of like how they're feeling about things. But we're going back. Like I said, I think we largely agree on the effect here. I maybe just don't like this word, or maybe I need a better word for it or whatever. Because I'm agreeing with everything you're saying past that. Like you shouldn't be like trying really hard not to offend somebody, or trying really hard to never say anything that makes the other person sad, or being like an ultra simp. Those are like huge turnoffs. Like I agree with you on that stuff. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question: when you're on a date with a girl, what takes higher priority? Not offending her or not making her uncomfortable, or expressing what you want and being who you are? Which is more important to you? I know they're both important, but which one is more important?
Oof. I probably. It depends on what those things mean. Fuck. I would probably lean, like when you say expressing who you are, can you talk a little bit more about that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, just like being yourself. Like you want to make, like, let's say you're talking, you want to make like a edgy joke, right, that you think is funny, and like you can do one of two things. You can like just say fuck it, I'm gonna make that joke, and she's either gonna fuck with my humor or not, or you could be like, ooh, I don't want to like offend her, it's a little too much, I just won't say it, I'll just be quiet. Or the girl does something you don't like, you can be like, hey, like, not saying get butthurt, but you can be like, hey, or you're gonna be like, hey, I don't want to rock the boat. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
It's gonna, well, that's hard because I have a lot of mass. It's gonna depend on who I'm talking to, right? So like if I'm hooking up with somebody recently, like there was a girl who like was previously identified as like a communist and shit, and was like very, very far left and shit. There was a lot of very edgy jokes that that I'm not gonna say around her. I'm going to push a little bit, and I'm going to make some kind of edgy jokes, but nowhere near the level of edge I'm normally at. So it's going to be enough to establish that, like, hey, I've got a pretty edgy personality. I'm going to push you a little bit on some things, but I'm not about to make, like, the most insane jokes I have, because she's going to fucking stop talking to me immediately if it's too much. But that's going to depend a lot, I think, on the person I'm talking to, and where, like, I try to meet them where they're at in terms of how I establish my personality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's just social calibration. That's something that's also essential if you want to be good with women, right?
Sure.
You have to be able to calibrate. Yeah, I'm going to act differently around like an OnlyFans girl than I'm going to act around like a church girl if I ever go on a date with a church girl, one in a million years. So yeah, I think that's something a little different. That's just calibration. Okay, what is like? Let me pose the question like this.
Sure.
What is like one date activity that you just hate doing? Like for me, I personally don't do dinners on the first date, right? Like that's something I hate doing on a first date. What is it for you? What is there anything that you just hate doing on a first date?
Group activities. If it's a first date, I want it to be one-on-one. I don't know if that counts or if that's cheating, but
Oh, it does count. Fair enough. I'm the same way. Okay, so there's a girl, you like her, and you know you're like legitimately interested in her. She invites you on a group date. What are you going to do? Are you going to agree to the group date, or are you going to say, "Hey, I'm not really into that"?
I'd probably just stop talking to her. If group dates are the most like platonic fucking shit in the world. If it's the first time I'm gonna see you and you're really gonna fucking group date me, nah. I would honestly, God, I would assume they're not interested, and I would either talk to someone else or play Factorio or stream. I think I just wouldn't show up at all. But
the point is, you wouldn't go along with it.
No, yeah, no. I'm not. Absolutely not. You're not dragging me on fucking some show and tell bullshit. No, I'm not doing that. No, fuck no. I wouldn't even waste my time.
That answers the earlier question. You do care more about being true to who you are and you know, basically pursuing your needs rather than pleasing people or rather than being ultra considerate, right? So you're exactly like me. That's normal. That's good. You should be like that, right? Because if you go to the other extent, you're just gonna make yourself miserable, going along with things you don't want and developing resentment. So that's good, right? But a lot of these incels are not like that. They will go on that group date even if they hate it because they're just so worried about rocking the boat. They're so worried about losing the girl. That's the point I'm trying to communicate.
Don't be a pushover. I agree with that, right?
Like,
especially because like being a pushover and not establishing boundaries, because another way I avoid that group date shit is I'm not gonna have, like, in my opinion, I think we agree on this. Women have even talked about this before. I think women decide like within the first day at least, if not like hours, on like how they're viewing you in terms of sexually versus like friendship wise, and going on any kind of group activity. I feel that's a really easy way to be like close friends with somebody. Like, and if that's not what I'm going for, like I'm not gonna fucking, why would I put myself in that fucking position? Yeah. But if you're the kind of guy who like acquiesces to all of that, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do this and that, then you can probably find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in. You don't want to just be friends with some girl who's like going out to hang out with all of her friends. You wanted something more intimate, and you didn't like establish that early on. And now that you set the pattern, it's going to be almost impossible to break out. If you're the type of person that didn't have the confidence to set the pattern in the beginning, you're probably not the person that has the confidence to break out of the pattern at the end. Yeah. Yeah,
100%. Most of these virgins and incels, it's not like they have no women in their life. They typically have like a few female friends, which is what I've observed. There's a few women they're hanging around. So it's not like they don't know how to talk to a woman at all, typically, unless they're like really autistic. It's typically like they have a few girls they're friends with, but they have no idea to show like how to show sexual interest. And the reason they get friend zoned instead of like actually, you know, like having a chance with that girl is because they just go along with whatever. So they will go along with the group date. They will go along with the dinner, right? They will do things far, far worse from that. They'll literally drive, pick up her laundry, like fucking watch her dog, do all this crazy shit, right? Because they're just so worried about offending her. So would you agree that like a lot of these incels could benefit from being a little bit more aloof?
I think at the end of the day, I'm probably gonna agree with everything you're saying. We would just use like slightly different words to phrase it, I guess. Because again, because I'm going to agree with every single thing you say, but I'm going to reframe it in my like empathetic, considerate lens. Like I'm being highly empathetic and highly considerate when she asks me on that group date because I know what's going on in her mind. I know what she's thinking, and I'm not going to go there because I know what you think when we're going to go out and hang out with like all of your friends. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm not an idiot. And I know what you think, and I'm not going to let you think that. So I'm just going to go do my own thing, or I'm going to ask for a one-on-one thing. And if you're not interested, you've told me all I need to know about where I stand in this like relationship thing. But I would describe that as like a form of like empathy, but you would use a different word in terms of being aloof. I think we agree fundamentally on what's going on. We're using different words to explain it, I guess. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think we do agree. We're just talking about semantics right now.
Sure.
I think that's like a lot of red pillars will probably challenge you on that because they will associate those words the same way I did. But yeah.
I think the words usually say real quick. I think the words are pathetic. I think the word needs to change, and like what I hear describing Destiny is like more so comedy and comedic elements, and like figuring out where a line is and figure out how to get up to that line in order to be edgy. And and you said yourself you're a funny person, or you grew up as a funny person, so like you know where the line is, even if you're not trying to be funny, you're just trying to get something else. Like you know how to navigate that, think about things through that lens. And I think like the issue is like, how do you get somebody to think of things in a way to like knowing, well, one, having knowledge, especially if it's like a dating thing, they're not used to dating. Like, how do you get somebody to know how maybe somebody else feels and about in that like what the situation could turn into if they haven't been there too. Like, how do you get somebody to think about things in a comedic way where you like know where the line is and how to go up to it, and then when you cross the line and all that stuff. Like, that's the main thing that's like tough to figure out.
Do you want to roughly restate that? It's really hard to understand whoever that is, or just because they're kind of far from the mic. But
yeah,
oh, my fault.
Wait, Q2, can I get through my points and then you can raise your points with Destiny? No, you're good. You're good, buddy. There's two other things I wanted to discuss with you. This is again. I feel like quite often when you and I have debates, we largely wind up agreeing. It was just a question of communication. So maybe this will be another one of those cases. But you said most men would gravitate towards a dominant woman if they didn't have insecurities, or like I'm sort of paraphrasing, but that was the general gist of what you said.
So this is a longer point of this, and I caveated a billion times that I don't know if this is true or not. But I hear people say things like men are leaders, women are followers, men are dominant, women are submissive. I hear these things generally over and over again. In my experience, in being in management, in doing leadership in video games, in existing in the fields that I exist in, on talent, everything, it feels like most people are followers, most people are submissive. It is an exceptional person that is a leader. A man by default is absolutely not a leader. The vast majority of men are followers. And so the question was posed to me is like, even the most feminist women, do they like a dominant man in bed? In my personal experience, the answer is overwhelmingly yes. Almost every woman wants you to be dominant. But I wonder on the male side, because men overwhelmingly are not leaders, they're followers in real life. That's the only way society works, if most people are followers. I wonder if on the bedside, if most men would prefer a woman to just like take charge and figure things out, or if they don't, but not because they don't actually prefer it, but because they would feel insecure about it. I just don't know the answer to that. Like, I can speculate, but I have no data. But I caveated a million times, I don't know what the actual answer is to that, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, just like a speculation. I mean, like I guess I don't really have the answer either. I just have like my personal experience. I'd venture to say that only a very, very small percentage of men would actually enjoy being dominated sexually. I do agree with the first part of what you said. I think very few.
Oh, wait, before you talk on this, can I just clarify, just so we don't waste too much time? When I say dominated, I don't necessarily mean like you've got a ball gag in your mouth and the woman is f***ing you with like an 8-inch BBC. I don't mean that necessary form of domination, but I mean one where like the woman is taking charge, where she's like, lay down, I'm gonna ride the shit out of you until you fucking, or I'm gonna blow you, blah, 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 and I'm gonna like set the charge on everything. That's what I mean when I say domination. I don't mean she's like pegging you, to be clear on that. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, then I think it will be a higher percentage. I still think the majority of men will not be into that. I think like the majority of men enjoy being dominant. I mean, there's of course there's exceptions. We have this guy on my channel, Mr. Slave, and his whole thing is like being as submissive as possible with women.
Sure.
Like he gets massively turned off if the woman is submissive. But like guys like him are like the exception to the rule. Like I think the vast majority of guys do prefer to be dominant if given the opportunity. But I do think that like this primarily is sexually. Like I think that when it comes to like leadership, like outside, like in work, I think that like a woman can be as much of a leader as a guy. I mean, averages probably men are more leaders, but yeah, like a woman can be. But I think even like those like boss babes or whatever you call them, like the chicks are like the CEO of their company in bed. 99% of the time she likes to be submissive. She likes the guy to like just take charge. But yeah, I don't know how far it extends outside the bedroom.
Yeah, and then I'm just curious from the differences between men and women there, because I don't know for how many men, I don't know how much of it comes down to like massive insecurity things, because that's hard sometimes. Like for instance, like it's really easy to do like a female male threesome. It's very, very hard to do a male female one, and it's because guys are legitimately like worried about like being gay, or if it's gonna like turn them off to even like see a dick, and there's like all sorts of weird, and I don't think that's like a natural biology men are just like that. I think there's like a lot of weird kind of like insecurities built into it, in my feeling, but I mean I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I don't know if we're disagreeing on too much, because this is kind of like a speculation of yours. So let me move on to the next thing.
Sure.
This is more of a question, but I want to see. So I had a very interesting debate last night on James Modern Day Debates channel about for who dating is harder, men or women. So who do you think dating is harder for?
It depends on what we mean by the harder. Like I would say that dating is harder for men because it's harder for them to get into relationships. But then I would say dating is harder for women because it seems like it's harder for them to find people they want to date. But so I don't know. Like I don't know how I would consider like dating is like a really broad thing, and who's it harder for? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Can
Yeah,
I
I mean,
just
well,
give my take on it?
sorry, what?
Can I just give my take on it, responding
Yeah,
to
sure.
Destiny?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey Steven. I feel like so the general take that I've heard is that it's easier for women to get the first date, but it's a lot easier for men to get the second date. But then the issue from that would be that most men are not getting the first date, so only a minority of men would even make it to the second date to have a benefit. So overall, like men would have it a lot harder. I have a hard time seeing in from which metric would women have a harder time within the dating scene.
Yeah,
The harder time for women, the challenge that women face that men don't face is it's very, very easy for women to get sex from a lot of guys because guys will fuck way lower than their dating standards. So women have to play interesting games around controlling sex for men because they're not trying to be a person that somebody wants to just fuck. They're trying to be a person somebody wants to just to fuck and date. And that's a challenge that women have to face that men don't ever really have to worry about.
let me
But
give my take. Sorry.
sorry,
I
I was
was.
going to say, isn't that a friend? I'll just respond and then you can go and I'll stay quiet the rest of the day.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't that like getting laid is the first step to a relationship, right? You begin, you have
No,
sex, and then
no.
you get to know each other more and more.
Nope.
Like,
Getting laid is the first step to a relationship, the same way that being really close friends with a girl is the first step to fucking. They're totally separate things. There are guys that will fuck women that, bro, not only would they never want to be fucking in a relationship with them, they'd kill themselves if this woman got a selfie with them and post it on Instagram. Okay? I've done that before, okay? There are absolutely women that guys will date. Guys will fuck so far below what they would date. And that woman thinks, Alex, I know you've been in these situations, and I hate being here, and it's awkward, but like, fuck. Hold on. I don't want to piss off anybody. Listen, if
No,
you
wait, man. You won't offend me.
no, I don't care about offending you. I care about offending people I talk to. If you're a woman that I'm currently talking to, you do not fit this box, I swear to God, okay? But it sounds like I'm describing you. I swear to God, I'm not describing you, okay? Just in case you're a woman that's talking to me right now, okay? There are women that will fuck a guy, and they're not getting quite, like, the response they want out of him. And sometimes when they don't get a response after a while, they'll start, like, sending pics because they know that, like, you'll open the app to check for the picture, but you didn't respond to their messages, so it's the way... Like, there are women that will keep playing that sex card over and over and over and over and over again because they think eventually they're going to get you close to that relationship, but you're not ever moving in that relationship direction. The same way that guys get friend zoned, I think women can get fuck zoned. So I'm just pushing back on Vikram's point there that like sex is the first start of a relationship. Absolutely not. It could be, just like how talking to a girl and getting kind of friendly with her can be the first part of like fucking her, but not necessarily. Sometimes those things run on totally different tracks. Sorry, go ahead.
I got to push back against that.
yeah, I'll let you go ahead. Can I just respond to this and then I'll let you go ahead, I promise. Sure. No, but here's the thing, Destiny. It's like a guy might get like a really average dude who has like maybe even below average game or whatever. Like that guy could get laid maybe once a month or even less than that. While that girl, even though she might get fuck zone a lot, she's getting laid like 5 times a week if she wanted to, or even like let's say 5 times a month.
Yeah,
like,
but remember, it's different desires. The woman's goal is not the sex, because women can get sex whenever they want. The woman's goal is like
statistically, she's more likely to reach that relationship stage just based on the number of people she could go through. You know.
Maybe it's possible.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Wait, hold up, Max. One at a time. Wait, okay. I got to massively push back against that. All right, so I would start off my series of inquiries with a question. For you, Destiny, what percentage of women that you've been in a serious relationship with did you start dating before having sex with them? Because for me, it's 0.
Probably 1. Probably my first girlfriend, my first girlfriend, high school. Yeah.
But the vast majority of your relationships you had sex with before you started dating.
Every other one, yeah, for sure. That's the kind of person I am. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're like a lot of guys. Like that is extremely common. So yeah, for guys, typically, we have sex with a girl, and then if all else follows, we. So typically, like the vast majority of time for men, sex does come before the relationship, and sex is the starting point for a relationship. So I don't think you could say that those two things are like loosely correlated or like not correlated at all. There's a heavy correlation. Like every guy pretty much is like having sex with a girl, and then he likes her. They keep having sex, and they start dating. That's how most men operate.
Yeah. Oh, this might be actually something we have a huge disagreement because I think I've heard you say this point. I disagree. I think a woman knows. I think a woman knows whether or not she'll fuck a guy very, very, very early on.
Sure.
I think a guy knows whether or not he'd date a girl also really, really early on. I don't think a woman, and I don't know, maybe you'll disagree with me, I don't think a woman can ever fuck her way into a relationship with a guy. Just like I don't think a guy can ever friend his way into a relationship with a woman. If you see a woman and she's like, maybe for you, or not you, I'm sorry, but for a guy, she's got like a 50-person body count, and you know, she's got like some friends that you don't like, and she's just kind of got like, we'll say one kid, whatever, like pile on all the horrible, whatever shit that people don't like about women. Let's say she's got all that, 50 body count, one kid who's 6 years old, a baby daddy who's kind of weird. That woman is never fucking her way to a relationship with you. It would never happen.
Yeah, I think I disagree with that. I think people start to grow feelings over time, and quite often you wind up getting into a relationship with people that you thought you would never date. When me and my current girlfriend met, Natty, we were straight up strictly fuck buddies. We both said we're just gonna keep this casual, like we're not gonna date. I never imagined myself dating her. She never imagined herself dating me, and lo and behold, we are dating, right? And that's been actually like that with a lot of my relationships. I think you keep hanging out with someone, you start to develop feelings for them. You start to realize it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you keep hanging out with them and you realize they're fucking suck and you never want to date them. But quite often you do start hanging out with a girl and you start realizing, hey, there's all these things about this girl that I like that I didn't realize, in the beginning. And also like the 50 body count or the fact that she had like this stuff is largely emotional. It's not logical. Men like to LARP around and pretend like, it's just like the best option. But typically men get into a relationship for emotional reasons. It's typically not logical. And I think, I think
I can partially agree with you there. The only different thing I would make here, though, is that like there's something I'm still thinking about. I don't know if friends with benefits exist. I think that might always turn into either a relationship or a dumpster fire. So if you found a girl, I would separate out, here's what I would do. I would take one night stands and I would put them in one category, and then I would take friends with benefits and I would put that for a man really close to a relationship. I think that if there's somebody that you're willing to meet and fuck on a regular basis, I think there's a high likelihood that, like you said, like feelings are developing, or there's some foundation already there that's a lot greater than just like a girl you'd be willing to fuck one time in a club. I think generally speaking.
It can just be initially for like me, and I think a lot of guys, it's like, hey, this girl's hot, she's not crazy, she's pretty fun to talk to, so I'm gonna make her a friends with benefits, right? But that's not typically, at least for me, that's not enough to be in a relationship with someone. I have to learn a lot more things about her. I mean, I've had many friends with benefits kind of situations that were not one night stands, that were neither relationships or dumpster fires, that ended very amicably when one of us got into a relationship. So yeah, I don't know, man.
Were you in relationships when you had those friends with benefits?
Quite often, no. Like quite often, I was not in relationships most of the time, I was not in a relationship when I had friends with benefits.
Huh, interesting. I guess I personally feel like a friends with benefits situation is already like, you're almost in a relationship already, depending on the extent to which you communicate. But,
I think, I don't know. I guess there's an element of like personal preference or whatever, but I think friends with benefits is certainly further along than a one night stand or a date when it comes to a relationship. I still think like typically when you're friends with benefits, you're both fucking other people, so you're not monogamous with each other. Typically, you're not really that intimate. You haven't met each other's parents. But like those things are like serious relationship things when you're like meeting parents and stuff. But I guess depending on how you're friends with, I feel like friends with benefits looks like the first stages of dating, or like the very early parts of like casual dating. That's what it feels like to me. Like you meet semi regularly, you have sex, you're probably doing like kind of coupley things. Maybe you literally just booty call, but I think usually you're like watching movies. You might even go out to eat. It feels like extended, like friends with benefits that's lasting for like more than a month is like, it feels like an early stage relationship to me. But I could be wrong. It might not be for everybody. But I think that supports my earlier point that sex is the beginning of a relationship.
I mean, it's the point is whether or not sex is the beginning part of a relationship, because I think any relationship is going to have sex before it begins. It's whether or not like sex is kind of like what builds into the relationship. I guess the earlier point that I feel, and I might not, maybe I would change my mind on this, but the earlier point I feel is that like if a guy is willing to engage in like extended, like a friends with benefits situation with a woman, like I feel like you've already made a lot of pretty challenging decisions with the woman that are like close to like deciding to date her. Maybe you're not fully dating her yet, but like here's a question, I guess. Here's a question, okay? Okay. Yeah. Think in your mind of all the girls that you've been friends with benefits with, okay? Or think of like extended friends with benefits situations, right? No. are these girls close? And then think of, do you have women in your life that you fucked one time that like you don't really you wouldn't fuck them on the regular?
Yeah, of course.
When you and then you've got women that you've dated before, right?
Yeah.
When you think of friends with benefits, do you think that they're closer to the women you've dated or the women that you would have like a one night stand with and don't really want to see again?
I think they're probably closer to the woman I've dated, but for me to be in a friends with benefits situation with a girl, she just needs to be hot, semi-reliable, and not horrible in bed, and like not crazy. That's really all the criteria for me to be in a relationship with a girl. There's like 20 more things. I need her to be semi-intelligent. I need her to have a good sense of humor. I need her to be very empathetic. I need her to be very loyal. Like, there's like so many things. So.
Okay,
Only a small
interesting.
percentage of the girls I was in a friends with benefits situation with would I ever actually like seriously date. It's like probably like 10% or something. It's a small percentage.
Gotcha. Okay. I feel like a lot of my friends with benefits end up with me being in relationships with, because I do open relationships, I'm already in a relationship with somebody else. But I feel like a lot of the girls that I've been friends with benefits with, if like one or two things would have been different, I probably would have dated them. Like I'm pretty close because we're already doing a lot of things that are like, we're almost a couple. Because if I'm friends with benefits long term with somebody, we're probably going out to see movies, we're probably going to dinner, we're probably sleeping over, we're probably hanging out. But I might be more intimate with my like sexual partners maybe than you are, or maybe you do that too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no. When I'm just friends with benefits, we just basically have sex, and once in a blue moon, if we're both hungry, we'll get food. But yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, maybe it's different then.
Yeah. But okay, going back to the initial thing. So here's kind of my I guess my position during that debate. So I think that men and women face different challenges when it comes to dating marketplace. However, if we're to look at like who overwhelmingly, holistically has it harder, I think men get the crown, and I think that that's for a variety of reasons. I think that the other side likes to make it seem like men are the gatekeepers of relationships and women are the gatekeepers of sex. But in reality, part of that is true. Women are the gatekeepers of sex. But when it comes to relationships, it's not always the man as the gatekeeper. It's typically who's less needy. So whoever wants the relationship less. I just had too many coaching clients who literally like were the ones who wanted the relationship. The girl didn't want a relationship with them. So I think that one really just depends on the couple. So I think that when it comes to getting into a relationship, once you've been dating, it's probably equal difficulty. But because it's so much harder for a man to get the first date, then if we consider those things, because look, if let's just say that, I don't know, like 20% of the girls that you go on a date with are open to being in a relationship with you, and for a girl, 20% of the guys she goes in a relationship with is open to being in a relationship with her, right? Well, if the girl can get like 10 dates a week and the guy gets like 2 dates a year, even though it's about the same, overwhelmingly, the girl has a way higher success rate or chance of being able to get into a relationship. So that was like my whole take on it.
It might be possible if you run the numbers game out, but it seems like, I mean, like women don't go after, like women could have way more. I think men actually have. I think men have more average partners than women when it comes to sex.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, so it seems like women aren't chasing the sex thing as much as they could be. I guess I just like if I think of in my head, if I think A and B are seeing each other and they've been fucking for a while now. A really wants to push for a relationship, but B's not really feeling it. In that situation, like 95% of the time, A feels like a woman there and B feels like a guy. Where they've had a sexual relationship for quite a while and one person wants to make it more serious and the other person doesn't. It always feels like it's the woman that would want to make it more serious, but the guy's just not. My intuition might be wrong there, but...
Yeah, I don't know. My speculation is that's like kind of split down the middle, where like sometimes it's the guy, sometimes it's the girl.
I guess and to add on to that, and again, you might disagree. I feel like women don't usually entertain long-term sexual relationships with people that they also wouldn't be able to date. I feel like that's really rare, but I could be wrong on that. That's just a feeling I have.
I think a smaller percentage of women do that than men. I think, generally speaking, that is something that more likely is to happen to a guy. But typically, like a woman, maybe she'll wait a month, maybe she'll wait a year, but at some point she's going to be like, hey, where's this going if she wants a relationship? And I think quite often guys will do that too if they want a relationship.
Okay, anything else?
No, I mean, that's basically it. Last question. When are we doing the cold approach challenge video, whatever you want to call it?
Good question. We should at some point, though, huh?
You want to make it happen this month?
I'm trying to think of how many places I'm going to this month. I don't know. We should try it. I respond better to my text. And I'll try. I see your text. I just suck at responding to them so bad. But I'll try to respond to them better. Yeah, because you text me all the time and you invite me to places, and then I'm like, I suck at responding.
Dude, I feel like I'm like texting like a fucking hot 18-year-old girl.
Yeah, no. I do way better at responding. If you ever message me on Discord, I always respond to Discord at the absolute latest 48 hours. And texts are just like whenever I fucking see them again because I suck at that. But yeah. Who all are you guys like all in your place right now? Who are all these people in the background?
No, they're not in my place. We're just I'm using StreamYard, so it's a whole bunch of people that were on the panel because we were doing a show before you came on. But yeah, I mean, we're doing a pickup challenge. Actually, as kind of corny as that sounds, next weekend. But even after that, we could do something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
the last question: how often do you debate guys?
How often do I debate guys?
How often do you debate each other? I mean, you and Alex.
Not that often. I feel like most of our debates are like just conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe a couple times a month. I think it just depends on what I'm talking about or what's going on.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's really fucking tough to find something that I substantially disagree with Destiny on. That's the issue. But yeah, cool, man. All right, buddy. I'll hit you up on Discord then.
Yeah, have fun. Be careful, bud.
Bye, dude. Have a good one. Take care.
Right, say goodbye, Destiny.
Goodbye. Why is he telling me to say goodbye? This is my Discord room. I don't have to leave. I don't want to.